The Italian male is not necessarily homosexual. It might help a bit. They wear the biggest and best cod pieces in the land. Emphasize the penis and the testicle.
It could be classified as late wedding cake or early water closet. It reminds me both of the shopping centre at Hammersmith and the Albert Memorial outside the Albert Hall. It is hideous beyond belief. French modern architecture is the ugliest in civilized Europe. Look at it. Hideous. Just look at it. It's hideous. Hideous.
Here's Raphael presenting a drawing. The Duke, Urbino. There's his father, painting the event in the background. Oh, it's awful.
This actually looks like a combination of red ink and urine. It's neither red nor... It's a little redder in the light. I'm not going to enjoy this experience. No, I'm not. It was in Paris that I lost my virginity to a 60-year-old grandmother when I was 20. She knew how to do it, and she was determined. Standing here shouting at you over the roar of traffic down there, the squalor, the souvenirs, the idiots wandering around pretending to be Roman centurions. Dear God. Idiot tourists in their myriads flock up the funicular, come here in some toy train borrowed from Disneyland, climb the stairs, go in, wander around, wonder why they're there, and come out again, having bought a souvenir or two. What am I doing here? Bloody hell. Needs must when the devil drives. If you look at this piece of sculpture, it is more than faintly ridiculous. There's a boy here, an onlooker on the scene, playing no part in it. And he looks up at what is happening, and right in his sight line is the perineum of one of the sons. He's looking at behind the testicles of that man. And if we wander round this monstrous animal, we shall see a pair of monstrous testicles. The audience here, the people who come to the ball, seem to have an average age of about 93. I imagined my sort of fondness for lascivious imaginings that there might be a deal of groping or bosom kissing or something exciting of that nature. And I simply can't see it happening. A very dull ball it's going to be with people of that age. They're all overdressed, they'll all sweat too much if they can move at all. There's a peacock. Look at it, magic bird. Meow! Meow! There. That's attracted its attention. Meow! I've forgotten where we were. Oh, talking about Orvieto wine. Yes, of course. He woke at midday, the clocks of Florence chiming long. And in at that very moment, through that door, came a donkey bearing panniers of fruit, peaches and grapes. And the languid hand of Gian Gastone would reach out of his bed, still half asleep, and pluck a peach from the basket, and juice dribbling down his chin, make breakfast of it. Nothing much else happened for another 5 hours. And then at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it was dinner time. And in came dinner and the ruspanti. And they were so named because they were worthless boys. All boys, naughty boys, lascivious boys, willing boys. I haven't brought a sketchbook. My fingers are too cold to draw. But I have brought a plumb line. Quite frankly, I think it's a disaster. All it's attracted is a lot of fat old lesbians. And that's about the sum of it.
Look at this figure, the huge penis. Look at that, there's a baker's sign saying, I bake bread in the shape of the phallus. Here's a sign that tells you you're on the way to a brothel. And look at these. Imagine somebody rings your doorbell in Merton or Mitcham or somewhere like that, and the bell rings and it's one of those. That is a doorbell. It's an animal, it's winged. Look at him, that man. He's got a monstrous phallus, so much so that he's actually battling with it. Keep it down.
Now, when you're in Florence, they say don't drink the... It's showing its tail. Look, 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 look. Ah, that's made my day.
Without having to pay for it. Look. By 100. I wonder if I'll ever be able to get Ow. Ow. It's punishment for being greedy. I'm never going to unhook myself.
Ow! Beckham is wonderful in what he does. Beckham, off the field, does all sorts of good works, which are pretty well hidden. Because Madam Beckham comes along wearing virtually nothing and steals the photograph, steals the occasion, and she's just a common little bitch. There's a bag on a trolley over there.
Yeah.
I thought it was an exhibit.
Yeah.
When I came into the room, I thought it was an exhibit. There's a bit of black, something over a cable there, which has elegantly positioned little bits of red tape. It seems to me to be at least as good as anything else I've seen in this room. I did discover your knickers round here.
Well, that's only for special people.
Well, I'm obviously a special person because I can make your knickers play roll out the barrel. At least I thought I could. There, got it.
You've got to know what to do, you've got to know where to press.
Yes, I know.
With
It's
your
a bit like
patience.
looking for your clitoris, isn't it?
It's about looking not just at the physical, but the inner as well, and loving yourself and being nice to yourself. You've got to look after yourself. You've got to go home at night, Brian, and have your whiskey and put your feet up. And
I don't like whiskey.
well,
don't like
whatever
putting my
you
feet
have,
up.
whatever your tipple is, I'm sure there's something. But you've got to look after yourself and cherish
Yes,
yourself.
I wish I were the Cheshire Cat and could just fade away.
I'm frightening you.
How do I stop you?
We, as grand tourists, had terrible trouble with bread. It went stale so quickly, we complained. And when it went stale, it then went green and mouldy, so we complained again. We bought good bread when we saw it, and well, were very disappointed when it turned out a few hours later not to be good bread. But of course, we completely misunderstood that bread here, and it's still the case, it has to be eaten when it's fresh. Then it has all the savour, all the texture, crust. Whereas you go off to your supermarket and buy a mighty white, which will last for a fortnight without going stale, and it isn't worth the eating.
What would Shakespeare have done for such a stage? 2 years within Shakespeare's death, this was on the drawing board. In 2 years more, it was in play. However beautiful you think her breasts, go round to the back and look at her buttocks, for there you will see a bottom as defies imagination. It did not, judging from its sticky grubbiness, defy the urge to touch. But most visitors to this echoing cavern of a church have come to see the tomb of Michelangelo.
He is buried here in a tomb designed by his friend and biographer, Giorgio Vasari. Vasari should have known better. It is a terrible tomb. It is topped by a rotten piece of painting by Naldini. The bust of Michelangelo is a copy of a copy of a copy of a bust of Michelangelo. Below it, there is a sarcophagus with 3 figures that represent painting, sculpture, and architecture.
They are so bad, they make me angry. I think that this is comparatively recent rubbish chiseled into this very beautiful gateway by local butchers, vandals, hoping to attract idiot pilgrims like me, who presumably will stay in the village and pay good money to do so. I feel had. I feel very angry. This is a beautiful little building. If you look at it as a building and not as the site of graffiti, then the detail of these arches is wonderful. But that's not what we come for. We are told to come and look at this rubbish. I am very angry indeed. Some people mess about with their dogs. And I did once mess about with a dog and make it ejaculate. I think I must have been about 12 at the time, just to see whether I could do it. The dog, which didn't belong to me or indeed anybody I knew, then became a damn nuisance. I remember when I was 8, encountering, it was right at the beginning of the war, 1939, and I had to share quarters for a few days with a boy from the East End who was perhaps 5 and who had never seen a civilized lavatory before. And he didn't know what going to the lavatory really involved. And he had retrieved his stools and on the tiles of the bathroom had made drawings with his fingertips. And there is, of course, to learn years later, a Freudian observation in this, that Freud was well aware of children using their stools as a drawing material. And then years later, still you come across Kossoff, who produces pictures that look extraordinarily like the material that you've seen by a 5-year-old spending the first half hour of his, in a decent bathroom with a lavatory. There it is. The connection is so clear. There was a man of such genius at such an early stage in his life that there has never been anybody who could match it. Not Raphael. Raphael was an affected weakling compared with Michelangelo. Leonardo was a genius who wasted his time on fripperies and achieved nothing, painted a dozen pictures at best, and has left us lots of drawings, but no great works of art. Michelangelo knew what he was doing and did it. Michelangelo had such a sense of purpose and yet was a man of extraordinary imagination and could write poetry and be affectionate to both men and women in an ideal sense. I think he was a driven soul, but it was a soul imbued with genius